Hi, and welcome to Learn Python for Economic Computation. This lesson we are going to cover string methods. So at the end of the last lesson, I covered a few string methods just briefly to get the idea, give you the idea of what they are. Today we're going to go over a few more of them, kind of get the idea about string methods and understand methods more generally. What you'll eventually learn is that a method is built into a class, and so strings are actually a type of object, and we call types of objects by their class, or that's how we refer to an object type typically, by their class. So my name that was a string, Jim, that is of an object of type string class, and from that object you can call methods that transform or somehow operate upon the object itself. So in this lesson we're on string caps, and that is the lesson that immediately followed the last one. In the book we're under string methods. And this is pretty straightforward. It looks familiar. It looks a little bit like the lesson from last time. We're going to make a message, John Nash. We're going to print the message. Okay, that was easy enough. And then what we're going to do is transform that message so that in one case it's all caps. In another case, the first letter of each word is capitalized. Okay. So let's start out with all caps. And we're just going to make the object and name it. Technically, you could just call message.upper, but it's useful to understand that you can have an object point to message.upper as well. Sometimes it's going to be useful to do so. Okay, so we have an object, message upper, that's our uppercase letters. And then we're going to create another message.title, because the title has the first letter of each word capitalized. Okay, and it's just going to be message.title, and we're going to print that. We're going to print message title. Okay. So this is pretty straightforward. We're going to get a nice result when we run it. First, let's save. We're going to save the file string caps. Okay, and then I'm going to run it. And you're going to see here, we get this output, John Nash lowercase, John Nash in all caps, and John Nash with one capital N, one capital J, and one capital N. So that's a nice introduction to methods, strings, methods that are tied to strings. And we have, in addition to this, some other sort of exercises we can go through. Okay, so let's create a new file. It's a good practice to create a new file. And on the next exercise, we're going to concatenate strings. And so part of this idea is that you can really operate with strings in a lot of different ways, okay? And we're going to create a different result, or the same result, using a different method. And it's really common to generate a single result using different methods, right? If I give you a problem, or I give 10 different people the same problem, very often they may come up with several or even 10 different solutions. And we're going to see in the same way that we could print John Nash before, we can do something quite similar here. Let's say, well, we're going to make a string that is John plus space plus Nash. Okay? And when I print this, it's going to give me the same result. And I'll show you this in the console as well. We can play around with it. Okay, but let's for now let's save the new file. Okay, We're going to run it, press F5, and you can see here we get the same result. So we have this nice result, and we can really show it in the console here. Let's move this up a bit. So suppose that I wanted to just keep on making John Nash. Notice here I just took 3 different John Nashes, MSG plus MSG plus MSG, and I got this result. Or maybe I want to put spaces between them, so we can add spaces, run it. You can see here we get John Nash multiple times. Okay. So really convenient way of operating. Okay, let's do one more example here. So I just put together 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? I could have put spaces between each of them. And of course, it's easy as actually typing it out. I'll try that again. Right. But this can be useful when you have different strings that you're operating with. Sometimes you want to concatenate those strings, and you don't want to rewrite them as a whole string. So you can use the plus sign to join them together, because that's what concatenate ultimately means, is join together. Okay. Let's keep on going through lessons. We have several more lessons we're going to go through today with the concatenate strings. So this is concatenate strings 2. And we're going to create 4 lines. And we're going to create a line of poetry. I invite you to make your own lines of poetry if you'd like, or you can just copy this. Notice I'm getting this from the book, so make sure, if you haven't already, that you're drawing this from the GitHub, which I linked to on this YouTube video. Okay, so we have all 4 lines, and now we're just going to print and we're going to concatenate the lines. Oh, there we go. Alright, let's run it and see what it does. Oh, and I forgot to save, so I better save. You know what, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to call this concatenate strings poetry, because this we're going to put together a few of the exercises here. Okay, so let's just call it that. And you can see here, right, again, if you can put together whichever lines you want, line 1, line 4, but you get the same result in the console. Okay. But what if we don't like what this looks like? Maybe we think there should be spaces between every word. This particularly, notice here, right, the lines merge together because there's no space between the last word and the first word. So let's fix that problem here. We're going to print another set. We're going to add a space with every word, every line. Okay, I'm going to run it. Okay, and notice we got 2 different results. I'm going to make this a bit wider so you can see it here. You can see the difference altogether. So at first, see, you thought it would be easy, you thought it would be strange. It wouldn't be strange. There's no space between easy and you. We've added a space between these lines. Okay, so this looks nicer. I don't think it's as nice as it could be, but you know, we're getting there. This is better than it was. Now, of course, if you look at the next exercise, maybe there's a better way that we could do this, okay? And so instead of using the space, let's print it like this. So notice here what we're doing is I'm going to create spaces by using this comma. And what we're implicitly doing is, if you look over here at the print function that I just called up, there is this thing called SEP, and that SEP is the traditionally, or the default is that it's a space, okay? So you see SEP equals quotation, space, quotation. And so when we run this, we're going to get the same result again. And so here we go. You thought it would be easy, you thought it wouldn't be strange, right? We have that space between here. Okay? And now you could change, right? We can set this SEP, we can make it the default. It's going to do the same thing if I do this. You see it, SEP here. If you want a little bit less noise, we can comment out using Control 1, highlight Control 1, comment out the other lines for a moment so you can see alone what it is. And you can see here that making the separator a space gives you a certain result. It gives you the result with spaces between every line. Maybe I wanted to make a tab between every line. We can run that. And you can see here, it's a little bit easier to see. There's line 1. There's line 2. There's line 3. Okay, but of course the easiest thing to do, well, let's run it again with no spaces. So we can just change that. Right, we're getting a lot of different results with very little work just by changing this SEP parameter. But I think what would be most useful is if we created a new line. And so this is going to be how we're going to close the exercise here, is use this new line. Okay, so we can make the SEP whatever we would like it to be, get a lot of different results. And you can see here, this is our final result. You thought it would be easy, you thought it would be strange, then you started coding, things never were the same. Okay. Now if you want to compare all the different results, we can run them all together. Maybe it would help for there to be a line entered between these. So maybe with the new line, there's a few ways you can do this, but an easy way right now would be to put this space in, and you can see here we broke a space in here. Okay, maybe I'll do one more of these, and now you can see very clearly you've broken up the spaces here. So you can see result 1, result 2, and then the final result where we made the separator, the SEP, this //n. Okay. So that gives us something that looks a little bit more like a poem since you're stacking the new lines. Alright, so hopefully you're able to make it through this exercise. You can keep up with moving between the console and the code. Make sure that if you haven't and you're trying to understand better what we're doing, go ahead and take a look at the textbook, which is on GitHub at Learn Python for Economic Computation. The GitHub name is Learn Python for Stats and Econ. See you next time.